My name is Dice Tsutsumi. I am a filmmaker or an animation artist. I probably want to call myself that way. I worked in feature film animation production for about 15 years. I was one of the art directors at Pixar for a couple of films like Toy Story 3 and Monsters University. And last year I left Pixar to form a new company called Tonko House. It's an animation studio my friend Robert Kondo and myself started. I directed this short film called The Dam Keeper with Robert Kondo, my friend. We made the film back in 2013, and somehow, we don't know why, but we got nominated for the Oscars, and we really are absolutely grateful that we got nominated for it. You know, we've seen a lot of films that, in our opinions, are better than ours, but that didn't make it. So we know this is a complete fortune that we somehow hit. We left Pixar because we learned so much doing The Dam Keeper. We had never directed or written a film before. We challenged ourselves with something we didn't know how to do, and we realized that's the best way to grow. We left Pixar saying we have to challenge ourselves like that every day, for real, not as a side project, but for real. It's been about 6 months. We're trying to create a feature-length animated story, or possibly television series. We'll see how it goes. Spectrum is it's definitely one of those sort of benchmark annuals for illustrators. It's great because you get to see what the current climate of illustration world and fantasy art or the comic book or the concept art is. I still look at Spectrum to see what illustrators are doing these days and what kind of artists are still around, or even newcomers, or I was in a position to look for new artists to hire, and I want to be aware of who these artists are, and there's some spectacular artists coming up every year. So looking at Spectrum is one of the best ways to find out what's going on in the illustration world. I remember the first time I got accepted into Spectrum Art Annual. I was still starting out as an illustrator, and I was jumping up and down. Not only because I was in the book for people to see, but also I was in the book with some of the heroes that I looked up to. And I know Spectrum has gotten even bigger now, and you see people you look up to, and you can be right next to them. That's a huge deal for a lot of young artists, especially. It's not just young people, it's not just old timers, but everybody. The entire community is coming together to be in this book, and I think there's a significance to this, and I'm so glad to be a part of it. This is a huge responsibility. I can't take it lightly. It is everybody's sort of incredible amount of effort and passion, and we were judging thousands of artwork, and I didn't want to take it irresponsibly. So it was a bit of a commitment that I had to really make sure to have. But I'm so glad and grateful that I was invited, because it does give me this energy and inspiration for me to kind of keep going, because I'm in this time of my career that I'm seeking a change and challenging myself with something I've never done, or I don't know if it works out. I'm definitely not in a safe spot. And looking at all these illustrators, I see that they're doing the same thing. They're challenging themselves every time, and they're exposing themselves to public. People are judging them. I'm judging them. It's not an easy thing, but they're still willing to be a part of it. I'm so glad I can be, in it together and share that courage that they have. So it is it's kind of a big deal for me to be a part of this judging process. I mean, I studied illustration, and even more than that, I studied oil painting in college. And I never really thought about going into animation until, when I was about to graduate. I didn't study animation. I only went for animation because I needed a visa to stay in this country, But I fell in love with animation because of the aspect of team effort, which I think I'm much more suited for. And also I like working with talented artists. But my love for illustration has never faded. I did the side project called Sketch Travel, connecting about 70 illustrators around the world. And mainly because I just love painting, I just love illustrations, I love artwork that tells a story. When I was in college, I wanted to be a good painter. I wanted to be able to paint what I wanted to paint, and I studied very serious traditional oil painting in New York, and I got into the world of animation, but my passion for painting never faded, But at the same time, I came into illustration or the painting world because I wanted to express something. There are times where I almost forgot that I was, there to express, what I wanted to share with the world. I just was focusing on the technique of painting. But every single time that I realized that's not why I came into the world of art, And I want to use the ability to paint or ability to draw to share what I believe and what I care with the world. And so that's why no matter what I do, I would like to keep pursuing that, like whether it's animation or painting or art in general. And so for me, the passion is to keep going with honesty and sincerity. Becoming an art director at Pixar is actually pretty dream come true type of a job. But I still had to ask myself that I'm there to express my belief, and it was important for me to go independent now and see what I can do in terms of what I really care deep inside. Not that that wasn't happening at Pixar, but I needed to kind of stay outside of this established place and see really who I am. And it might take some time to find it, but I hope to be able to find it and express through my art. And that's kind of what's driving me right now. That's the passion I have, yeah. One artist that inspired me probably the most is Frederick Buck, who is a Canadian animator. He is the one who made the Oscar-winning The Man Who Planted Trees, and I respect him not just because of incredible craftsmanship he had when he made those films, but also he had the sense of why he was making his films. And there was always a reason behind it that I could relate to. So Frederick Buck is probably the most influential artist for me. I think one thing I don't think I did enough when I was younger or when I was a student was ask myself why I'm doing it. And there was a long period of time where I was just focusing on the technique of painting or the technique of art direction or the, whatever I was doing at the moment, whether it's animation or illustration. But I do believe that if you stop a minute and just kind of step back and look at yourself, and you want to make sure there's a reason behind what you're doing, whether it's painting or the sculpture or the drawing or whether it's digital or oil, it doesn't really matter. Why are we doing this to start with? And I do believe why can touch people more than just what it is that you're doing. So I hope if you are starting out your career, whether it's in animation or illustration or in art in general, that you sometimes, every once in a while, you stop and ask yourself why you're doing it. And I think you get to the answer a little more easily than not thinking about it. So, instead of thinking about what you're doing, why you're doing it,